Paul wrote to Timothy, a young minister, as he was in prison, and he warned him that dangerous times would come in the last days. And so he says this in 2 Timothy 3. But know this, that in the last days perilous times will come. For men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good. And so this is pretty long list, but he goes on and continues. Traitors, headstrong, haughty, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power. And from such people turn away. So he gave these warnings to Timothy to keep him encouraged in the faith, and also beware of the danger that's coming. And so as Christians today, what is our job? Our job is to encourage each other and to be prepared for what is about to come. And that is the last days, the end times, and satanic influence is growing. I want to read Ephesians 2:2, where in time past you walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that now worketh in the children of disobedience. So we know that from this that Satan is the prince of the power of the air, and he's influencing this world. And so that's what we're going to look at on the first part of this documentary, is how satanic influence is growing. So we look on Fox News in an article published where it talks about a satanic golden Medusa abortion statue outside of the New York courthouse, and you can see a picture of it right there. Also, in the current news, we see the Satanic Temple has been allowed to open up an abortion clinic in New Mexico, and you'll see it here.
An international group named after Satan will soon open its first abortion business in the United States. The Satanic Temple, which claims to not believe in a literal Satan, will provide telehealth screenings and prescribe abortion pills for patients in New Mexico. The name of the soon-to-be facility, the Samuel Alito's Mom's Satanic Abortion Clinic. Abortion access, the right to it, or restrictions to it, has seen dueling protests here in New Mexico over the past few weeks and months, really. All this, of course, after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade last summer.
Many religious organizations have mobilized in an effort to restrict or ban access to abortion.
But now, Satanic Temple leaders say they want to make it easier to get access to abortion. There are many groups fighting for the right to abortions in this state, and another group fighting for access to abortion in New Mexico is the Satanic Temple. They're opening up a telehealth abortion clinic, and they're calling it the world's first religious abortion clinic. They say they'll provide 24/7 virtual appointments and screenings where patients in New Mexico can then receive abortion medication. Their main goal in all of this is to combat abortion restriction laws like the ones passed in the city of Clovis and Roosevelt County. The Satanic Temple claims that they have argued in lawsuits against the state of Texas, saying abortion through their organization is exempt legally because the procedure is an essential part of a religious practice.
I have to think, why will we allow a satanic temple to be over aborting children, to giving access to abortion and killing babies? It's something that we definitely have to stop as they try to increase these in different states. We even see at the Grammys where there was this dark satanic theme for entertainment. In Hosea chapter 6 in verses 2, the Bible talks about after 2 days he will revive us, and on the third day he will restore us, that we may live in his presence. And so this is part of the Hosea prophecy of days equal to millennium, and that in the third day, Jesus will return and actually bring in the Messianic age. Go to AOC Network Hosea Prophecy for this. Remember this book? This is the world order of Bahula that I talked about in the Antichrist video part number 1. And that this is the book that I believe describes what the end times will be with the one world government and basically into the mark of the beast. And it talks about how this world legislature is the trustees of the whole of mankind and will ultimately control the entire resources of all component nations and satisfy the needs and adjust the relationships of all races and peoples. The World Economic Forum came out with 8 predictions for the world in 2030 back in November of 2016. One thing that they predicted was that all products would have become services. So in other words, this dystopia nobody would own anything. Everything is just rented. And then the third thing that they had on their list is that U.S. dominance is over. And they go on to talk about the world powers and list them there. This is also repeated in Forbes, where it says, "Welcome to 2030. I own nothing, have no privacy, and life has never been better." And it also repeats what the other article was saying too, that nobody would own anything. However, Reuters came out with an article of their own and said that this was false. That there's no way that the World Economic Forum stated that this was a goal. But however, what we're hearing is that banks have been doing this
everything
recently.
Digital, and digital currency is central bank digital currency. Obviously, you have no power whatsoever. If they don't like what you're doing, they just shut you down and you're impoverished. It just happened in Canada last winter, so we know what the consequences are. We know why they want it. So that couldn't happen, right? Well, we may live to see the day that it does happen. And here's the latest sign that it may be happening. The number of banks and ATM machines in this country are in steep decline. Far fewer than there were just a few years ago. And in some countries like Australia, they're going way at high speed. So this is not something that anyone voted on. This is something that they're just doing, whether you like it or not. So you could say we have cash, but if you can't get cash, then do you really have cash? So where's this going? That's the question we want to assess tonight. And we're going to with Catherine Austin Fitz, who has been monitoring this. She founded the Solari Report. She's also the Assistant Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, and we're happy to have her. Catherine, thanks for coming on. So I think if you put this up to a vote nationally, most people would say, no, I may not use cash, but I'd like to have cash, because if there's no cash, then I have no control over my life. But it seems like this could be a way to affect the same outcome without a vote.
So, Tucker, the one of the bedrocks of freedom is freedom to do financial transactions, including privately, or freedom to do where you want to do and wherever you want to do. And unfortunately, as the financial system has become more and more digital, you see more and more not only invasive surveillance, but more and more controls. You referred to Canada, perfect example. And the reality, as the financial system gets more controlling and more invasive, it's a little bit like bringing up a corral around us. And CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, and vaccine passports or digital IDs are sort of the last shutting of the gate. It's hard for many people to imagine the risks here because we're so used to living with financial transaction freedom, and we don't understand that when this gate closes on us, we literally will be sitting in a system where the central banks believe that our assets belong to them, and they can dictate where we can can spend money and what we can spend money on. The important thing to understand is central bank digital currencies are not currencies. It's a financial transaction control grid, and it gives the ability for the central bankers, and they've said this publicly, the ability to not only set the rules centrally, but enforce the rules centrally. If you don't behave, you can have your money turned off.
Now there's this talk about the future of artificial intelligence and that our current humanity is obsolete and that our bodies and our brains and our makeup needs to be replaced with something more technological. And there's a person at the center of this who you'll see in this clip here. His name is Yuval Noah Harari, and he's like an Israeli historian, but he also speaks at a lot of economic forums. And the next couple of clips you'll see is that he is pretty much a blasphemer against the God of Israel, against the Bible, against Jesus Christ. Everything that our faith stands for, he utters complete blasphemies against. And so listen to these clips here and you'll see exactly what I'm saying.
I mean, all this story about Jesus rising from the dead and being the Son of God, this is fake news. Evolution by natural selection with evolution by intelligent design. Not the intelligent design of some God above the clouds, but our intelligent design and the intelligent design of our clouds. Acquiring divine powers of creation and destruction, we are really upgrading humans into gods. We are acquiring, for instance, the power to re-engineer life. Humans are now hackable animals. You know, the whole idea that humans have, they have this soul or spirit and they have free will and nobody knows what's happening inside me. So whatever I choose, whether in the election or whether in the supermarket, this is my free will. You need completely new ideologies, completely new religions, and they are likely to emerge from Silicon Valley or from Bangalore and not from the Middle East. And they are likely to give people visions based on technology. Everything that the old religions promised, happiness and justice and even eternal life, but here on earth with the help of technology and not after death.
This idea of artificial intelligence giving eternal life is also popular among Jared Kushner, who used to be in the White House, and he even discussed his ambitions in this short clip.
The one thing I've tried to put a priority on since I left the White House was, getting some exercise in. I think that there's a good probability that my generation is, hopefully with the advances in science, either, the first generation to live forever or the last generation that's going to die. Tried to put a priority on since I left the White House was, getting some exercise in. I think that there's a good probability that my generation is, hopefully with the advances in science, either, the first generation to live forever or the last generation that's going to die.
To wrap up part 2 of this documentary, the questions come to mind. What are we going to do about this? What are our ways that we can counter this challenge in the church? What are some strategies that we have? We know that we have God and His Word, and we have high faith in that. What is the Spirit of God pushing us to in this season? And so let's think about that as I'll come back with part 3. So join me for part 3. Hit the like button and subscribe. And let me know what you think as we go into another part of this series.